Welcome back to the Competitor Talk. This is your host, Kyle Dangler. This podcast is presented by Lad Creative Works, and today we were lucky to have on guest Keller Chryst. Now, Keller grew up in North Carolina, and then for his last 2 years of high school, transferred to California and played at Palo Alto High School in Palo Alto, California, and he just lit it up. I mean, even when he was in North Carolina up until his senior season in California, I mean, just looking at his numbers, over 7,000 yards passing, which is a school record, 110 career quarterback rating, which is a school record, 2013 Elite 11 finalists, which is the top 11 quarterbacks in the nation go out for that camp. So it was a great experience, I'm sure, for him. We'll probably hear some about that. He was the nation's third best pocket passer by ESPN, 2014 Under Armour All-American, 2013 Max Preps preseason Mr. California, the nation's second best pro-style quarterback rated by Rivals, 4-star recruit out of Palo Alto, California. And, he played at Stanford University, and then for his final season, wrapped it up with Tennessee University. Just has tried to be in the NFL, been in a couple of different mini camps, a couple of different environments in different organizations, so we'll hear from that. Just talk about his career, a lot of his family, his brother, his uncle, just a lot of people in his family are involved in the game. His uncle's the head coach at University of Wisconsin. His brother's been quarterback at Oregon State. Just a lot of family blood in football. So we'll talk about that, a little bit about his career, just some of the guys he's played with. He's played with guys like Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, and they're just talking about, what his next step in is his career, what kind of path is he looking to go on, maybe, try to stick it out with a team in training camp next year, mini camp coming up, in a few months, also getting ready for that, or, he's moving on, maybe getting into coaching like his uncle. Just really cool experience to get to hear from him. So we'll get started right now. Here we go.
Hey, what's up, Kyle?
Hey, how's it going, Keller?
Doing well.
Awesome. Yeah, so, thanks for coming on the show. Welcome on. We just want to get ready to start it. I know we're a little late going. Sorry about that. So if you're just ready to go, we'll just get started.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Yeah. So, just, taking you back, a few years from now, we like to start off with a little bit about, how the process went for you to, pick Stanford. We always like to ask a few of the guys, we've had a few guys, from Stanford University on the show, also just a couple different colleges as well. But, just coming out of high school, being so highly touted, the nation's third best pocket passer rated by ESPN, preseason Mr. California by Max Prep, just all these records and kind of accolades you built up, throughout your high school career, and then picking Stanford, staying close to home, after moving there. What was it like for you, the recruiting process? Was there any other considerations at other colleges, or were you always, kind of sticking with Stanford and, staying close to home?
Yeah, so really from the get-go, I wanted to go to Stanford. I could give the cliche answer almost, everyone that goes to Stanford says, you get the combination of athletics and a great football team. But for me, it was, I actually started following Stanford when Jim Harbaugh went there, because my dad actually coached Jim Harbaugh and coached with him. So I've heard about Andrew Luck even before, he was the whole national sensation that he turned out to be. But, when he was coming up, kind of hearing the whispers through the coaching staff, his first season playing, kind of following Luck through his college career at Stanford. And then obviously when you're living right across the street, you go to all the games and you're around that. So you're familiar with the town. And then obviously, the coaches who have a high pedigree, even after Harbaugh left, it was Shaw, who spent some time in the NFL. And they also ran the West Coast system, which I even ran in high school. So it was a good combination of a lot of different things. And I thought it would propel me for the best situation moving on to the next level.
Awesome. Yeah. So, going, just in your family bloodline, I know you guys are, big football advocates. Your uncle's a coach at Wisconsin. Your father, with the Denver Broncos. Your brothers play football. When was it for you that you realized, your passion for football? Obviously, it's always been in your bloodline, but was there any specific moment where you realized, this is kind of something you want to do, even, not even just for fun, but, maybe as a possible career?
It was so early for me. It's always been on my mind that I can't even pinpoint a time, just because, I've been around it my whole life. And ever since I even could remember, it was obviously I wanted to play football for as long as I possibly can. And I'm really starting to understand now, this is my first season being out of football in and pursue my dream.
Awesome. Yeah. So, just wrapping up, with kind of the high school stuff, but just wrapping up, your high school career, all these accolades and success, going to the next level, was there a learning curve for you, going from, being, the guy in high school and then having to, sit behind and, kind of learn and, maybe not play as much as you hope for, early on in your career, just looking back?
I would say, yeah. I think it was hard to sit out a year to redshirt. When you're not playing in games, you kind of lose that kind of drive and competitive spirit. So once I finished redshirting, I had to kind of search deep within me and find that old, killer instinct that I had that, I kind of put off, and it was dormant just for the year when I was redshirting, even though, you're practicing and you're doing all the lifts and all that, you're not playing games, which was a transition for me. And going to playing in high school football in California, Northern California, it was a good competition, but it wasn't anywhere near, Texas or Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, any of those places. So, but in terms of physically, I felt I was ready to go. It was really just kind of mentally turning on that switch. This is a whole new ball game, and I got to bring it every single time.
Awesome. Yeah. So, getting into your sophomore year, obviously, after the redshirt year, only playing in 4 games, kind of not, getting that real shot, to be the starter. Was that something also that you felt was a little difficult, having to realize that, the competition was getting a little bit better and, just back in high school, I'm sure, the coaches and even your teammates leaned on you a little more than now in college, the team around you is a little bit better and, the coaching staff, has other guys and, having the really, tough quarterback competition. Was that something that you struggle with, or is that something that, you kind of fed off of and embraced?
Yeah, it was hard, to be honest. Like you said, there's a lot of different pieces and good players around the entire team. So you feel like you're not, supporting that same kind of role as you used to in high school. And Kevin Hogan was there for, I think it was going on his 4th year starting. So it was tough to kind of crack that. And then fortunate enough for me, coaches eventually found ways to get me in the game, whether it's I had a lead block against Arizona, and I was able to get some time, throughout the game and actually play quarterback. I had some run game option stuff that I did, during before it was either a blowout game or I kind of get that garbage time at the end of games. But so that was really when I would play. So they would find I had packages to have me go in as a runner. I played for the Notre Dame game. I even went out there at receiver a couple times just to lay a block on a guy, kind of get some action. So that was kind of my first year redshirt freshman sophomore season playing.
Awesome. Yeah, so, learning from a guy like Kevin, just, being, as you mentioned, 4-year starter, someone that, in Stanford history, goes down as, someone that, you're going to recognize the name, just around Stanford, around the campus and the football program. Being able to, see how he went about his, routine, watching film, I'm sure, going through his progressions. Was that something that you kind of, paid attention to a little bit extra, kind of learned some tips from him going into your junior year in which you played in 12 games and you were 6-0 as a starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think anytime you're playing, like I said, he was a starter for 4 years, so you're getting a lot of experience. And I think the biggest thing I took away from him, really, it was beyond, X's and O's and, learning any type of, new throwing mechanics or reading the defense, anything like that. It was really just seeing his competitive nature and his fire. And, he would pull out games and he was a winner. It could be an ugly game and he'd find a way to win one way or the other. And that's really, as a quarterback, in my opinion, I think the most important thing. And I think he gets overlooked a lot. You get caught up in stats and all that other stuff, but one way or another, you got to find a way to win. And that's what Hogan did. I think his best attribute was winning.
Awesome. Yeah. So, just before we move on to, kind of your, senior year at Stanford and then going over to Tennessee, just, going throughout your progression, going into, Saturday night or Friday night or whenever you played, were you kind of a big film person? Were you kind of, more of looking at your own plays to make sure you had it down? I mean, what was it kind of like for you, going through the film and also balancing that with, just trusting your instincts and, not reading too much into it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I've kind of, especially younger in my career, I was a workaholic. I felt, the more the better, whether it's physically, running extra sprints, doing extra work in the weight room, watching more film, etc. Anything it was more, it was better. And early in my career, that's what I did. My playing days, I'd watch as much film as I possibly could, try to get every little thing I could see from an opponent's defense, try to crack that code. But as I progressed, got a little older, in general, got a little more confidence in my play and realized I can adapt to things on the fly, but also that you can get certain things throughout the defense during the week, and you don't have to grind away watching hours and hours every single snap that they played in the last 5 years. So you kind of get a feel, and it's more of a general sense of that defense. So when you're going out there, it's more of a reaction based. You don't want to over predict, because that's when you get that's when I think you get in trouble, is when you're
getting your own head kind of.
Right, like they didn't do this the last time that we were in fourth and 3, and this down the distance of this yardage. They didn't do this exact thing, and then you short circuit when they don't do that. It's kind of a reactionary thing, and I think I developed that throughout my 5 years of college.
Awesome, yeah. So just besides the coaching staff, the film room and all that, outside of that, nothing, at the end of the day, there's nothing like family. And, for you having, your uncle, your dad, your brothers, all around the game of football, how much do you kind of lean on them, just for some advice, tips, before or after games, just, maybe they saw something that, maybe you didn't catch? I mean, do you talk to them a lot about football? Because we've had some people on the show that, really, helpful and, kind of talk with their family about it. And also some guys who are kind of, leave that on the field and, go home and, talk about different, things in life. I mean, are you kind of someone who talks with your family about football and, gets advice, or you kind of, leave that all on the field and, go home?
I would say we still don't. I mean, our family loves football, so we're talking about it all the time, and I'm sure my mom and my sister probably get a little annoyed by that, but that's just kind of who we are.
Yeah.
We're always we watch a game together. We'll watch, we'll sit down on Saturdays and Sundays when we get a chance, and we'll watch as much football as we can, or watch the Thursday, Monday night games, and talk about scheme and players and all that. But in terms of tips for me, it wasn't really you gotta do this when this happens. It was more it was more from a leadership or encouragement of teammates standpoint, kind of away from the X's and O's, and finding ways to help benefit the team in other ways. So that was really, in terms of tips and pointers from my dad and family, that's really what it was. But we're really always talking ball, talking scheme, new trends in the NFL, and where everything's going.
Yeah, awesome. So, you just mentioned something interesting is kind of the leadership aspect, because, being the quarterback, having a few different NFL, college quarterbacks on the show, something that, they always talk about, as you mentioned just before, is the leadership aspect. I'm curious, for you, because, some guys are quiet, some guys embrace it, but, being the quarterback kind of, going into the season, it's expected, you're supposed to be the leader, it's just expected, without saying it. How is it for you, having to deal with that pressure off the field, being the leader, and then also on the field, having to deal with, the players, and, also, memorizing the scheme and, dealing with defenses?
Yeah, so I think it's very important. It's obviously probably, confidence, leadership, poise. They're all top traits I think all quarterbacks should have. And it's something for me that when I was younger, I was always kind of a lead by example guy. I wasn't really vocal. In my last few years, I started to read a lot more books on leadership and kind of get more immersed into being a vocal leader, and just kind of, I don't want to say controlling, but influencing the team in all ways possible. It's more than just what happens on game day. It's throughout the week. You're helping the line with certain fronts, certain calls, the run game, getting to certain checks, the off season, making sure guys, have that mental discipline to fight through the tough times, to handle certain situations that may seem tricky on the onset. but I think as a leader and specifically as a quarterback, it's almost your responsibility to handle that stuff. Some people don't. Some people think the line should handle the line, the defense should handle the defense. But I think the more the better. Obviously, if you're doing it the right way, and you're not overstepping and all that, but you're helping them any way you can. You're open. You have an open relationship and communication with all facets, your teammates, your coaches, everyone involved on the team. Because ultimately, that's the way to win games.
Awesome. Yeah. So after your junior year, playing in 12 games, going 6-0 at quarterback, there was kind of a step back in terms of the playing time that you got your senior year. So then after that, going to Tennessee, after going 11-2 as a starter, with the Cardinals in 2016 and 2017. Just curious, what led you towards Tennessee? Was it something that you had on the back of your mind, going into kind of the winter and dealing with kind of the transition? What kind of stood out to Tennessee for you, and also what was kind of the reason? Just looking for a fresh new start after Stanford for your final year. What kind of led to the whole thing happening?
Yeah, so kind of on the surface level, what really kind of inspired me to go there was just playing in front of that big college atmosphere the SEC has. Tennessee fans, 102,000, all that good stuff, yeah. All that rich history in the SEC. So that was kind of surface level, but also I think college football in general, and I think it goes with all sports. Certain big brands like Tennessee or the Cowboys, the Packers, the Steelers, those type of big brand teams. I think the entire league, the entire nation, I think all football is better when those teams are better. And to me, I really wanted to make an impact on a team like Tennessee and see if I could turn it around and make that program better. Learning what I learned at Stanford, see if I could apply what I've learned to Tennessee and see if we can make Tennessee, the old Tennessee that those fans and that everyone involved deserves. So that was a big part of it. And also, they run the pro style offense was a thing. So I had some coaching connections here and there, but those are probably the biggest things for me.
Awesome. So going into Tennessee, you mentioned, the crowd, you mentioned, the SEC, not a knock on the Pac-12, but obviously, the SEC, has, as you mentioned, kind of teams like Tennessee, Florida, Alabama. Going into that, atmosphere, with all these SEC teams, but also dealing with, going into another quarterback scenario in which you had to, have a quarterback competition. Was that something that, was kind of frustrating going into, your fifth year in college football, having to deal with another quarterback kind of competition? Or is that something that you felt, made you better and, also at the end of the day helped the team?
Yeah, it was eventually when you're in all these quarterback battles throughout your life, you kind of just get used to it. So that's kind of how I treated it. And it was just one of those things where you dealt with the best you could. It was, and to be honest, it was one of the first years. There's kind of, it was one of the first times in my life where it kind of got to me like this is hard. Riding the bench, not playing, kind of all that stuff. That was hard. Knowing that this was my last year of college football, but I looked myself in the mirror, kind of turned some things around, and I was able to perform well in some games, and I ended up, looking back on the season and saying that's something that I'm proud of.
Awesome. Now, going, in the transferring to Tennessee, were you known about the quarterback, situation in which it would be, a competition? Did you feel that, you were going there to start? I mean, how was it the process for you, having to, go there at the same time, but also, was it something that you expected to go into, or was it something that kind of caught you off guard?
When talking to the coaches beforehand, they were saying, it's an open competition, and it looks like, it's one of those things where you have a really good shot to win it. And, it turned out how it did. Obviously, being a competitor, I still think I showed that having played well in some games that I should have been the starter a couple times at least. But it is what it is, and the coaches had to make the decision, and it's they got their lives and their families on the line too. So it is what it is.
Awesome. So after playing at Tennessee, after wrapping up your career recently in the college aspect, going into the NFL, just reading up about you, obviously, you're feeling more agile, at your pro day. And then, you just, at the end of the day, you mentioned that you just needed a chance from the NFL. I mean, what has the process been like for you after college, trying to get your shot in the NFL? And then after that, is it something that, down the line you look to maybe coach afterwards, going to a different field with your education at Stanford and Tennessee? What's kind of the latest with you with the NFL and, kind of life after college football?
So right now I'm training out in Denver, still staying in shape. I've done a lot of research on my own about certain training and the best methods, quarterback mechanics, strength and conditioning training, all that type of thing. So I feel like I'm starting to really, find out what's best for me. I'm 20 pounds lighter than I was during the season last year, so I'm feeling, really light on my feet, quicker than ever. I completely revamped some of my mechanics, and I feel like I'm throwing it faster and more accurately than I have really my whole life. So I'm feeling really good, and it's it's kind of a bummer that it's all happening a little bit after my pro day, and I don't have a season to show for it. All this, I knew how I'm feeling these days, but, I'm staying ready. Hopefully I get a call. I've had a couple workouts with teams.
Yeah.
And that was really a chance to show where I'm at, and I've gotten good feedback there. So it's just one of those things where you just got to stay ready. You never know when a call can come, but, I'm excited to, show off my new and improved self, because I'm feeling better than ever. And then after football, playing days, which I hope last couple more years for sure. Yeah. But I'm thinking about all that stuff, and like I said, I love football, and I would love to influence like young players who need direction, who want to be a better football player, a better man. So that's what motivates me to possibly get into coaching. Maybe scouting GM side too, kind of finding the best possible team is, whether it's through analytics or, just through my own experience. But, I think at the end of the day, I can kind of dip my toes into those certain fields and hopefully fall back on my degree if all else fails.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, being in a couple different NFL organizations, whether tryout or rookie minicamp, being with, teams like the Steelers, getting the tryout with the Bills. I mean, with the feedback set, just with your, you mentioned, kind of revamping your own skills, obviously you lost, 20 pounds, so you're lighter. But just with your arm, do you have a different slot now, just kind of with your throwing mechanics? What are you doing, to kind of revamp your style of throwing and also, make sure, it's quicker, faster, tight?
Yeah, so in terms of arm slot, it's really kind of evolved, or I feel more comfortable with myself being able to throw it really, high or on the side, and I feel comfortable throwing it all ways. It's really the way I kind of developed to throw once I got into college was heavy arm-based only, so I was using all arm, and I wasn't really using my legs or my torso, really anything but my arm. So my arm was, less strong, and when you're having to use your force to do everything, your muscling, everything, you're using less of your smaller muscles to control your accuracy. And then also, when you're using all your arm, you get sore sooner. So, kind of all those things, you take those out, start using your body more, you're able to control it a lot better. You feel, overall just healthier. And then really it's applying all that strength work that you do in the weight room, all that speed work you do on the field, and really transitioning into the mechanics of playing quarterback and making it actually applicable from all that work that you put in the weight room and stuff.
Yeah. Now, are you training by yourself, training with, other guys, having a couple of receivers come out to catch balls for you? I mean, what's it like, on an everyday basis for you training? I mean, obviously, you're weightlifting and stuff, have your workout plan, but on terms of, the field, getting, some action in, I mean, how is it for you, getting guys to come out to be able to throw the ball to them and, make sure kind of your arms loose and, your mechanics are improving?
Yeah, so it's, I got some buddies around here in the Denver area that, played in the NFL, bounced from team to team, and they're kind of in the same position I am, staying ready for that call. So I've been training with them. They're also good buddies, so it makes training a lot easier, especially this time of year when you kind of feel like you're just training to train and you kind of see no end in sight. They help you get through it, especially like I said, you get a call at any point, but then that could come 30 minutes, or they can never come. So it's one of those things where you just have to remain confident in yourself and steadfast in your ways.
Yeah. So, just to kind of wrap up, two questions that, are related to football, but, kind of just, opinion, personal questions. Just, you mentioned, buddies, out and helping you out training right now. Just looking back, in college, high school, wherever, you've played with some, great athletes with yourself, kind of guys like Christian McCaffrey, being around Kevin Hogan. Just who so far in your career has been your favorite teammate and kind of why, is the off the field chemistry transition on to the on field? Are you guys just, connecting well? I mean, what kind of stands out about your favorite teammate thus far in your career?
Well, a singular teammate would be hard to answer, but, going back to Stanford, we had a really good crew. Me, Christian, Joey, Alfieri, Solomon Thomas, Casey Tucker, CJ Keller, Harrison Phillips, and really our entire 2014 high school class was really tight. And I think we pushed each other and made each other better. And we had such a good relationship off the field that we were able to make those, we were able to have those hard conversations on the field. When things went bad or things were going good, we were able to have honest and open communication because, we weren't on the fence about who we were or where the relationship was with any of us. So I think that's what really made us a better team and, had better friendships because of that. So those guys really are the closest. I stay in touch with them all the day. And we continue to push each other day in and day out.
Yeah. Just interesting, real quick, because you just brought up kind of, the off the field, having that connection off the field, transition to on the field, and with the open communication. How important is it, not only for you, but, just in terms of, the whole entire team, being, close off the field rather than, just, showing up to practice, individually, going to the field, doing your job, and, not really connecting off the field. How important is it for you just being around a couple different locker rooms for that impact, off the field to transition on to, the playing field?
Yeah, I think it's probably the most important thing a team can have is that relationship, that off the field relationship, or just the ability to know who each other are, know what makes them tick, what gets under their skin, and it's also, like I said before, like when things go bad, you don't want to be holding things in and not saying, hey man, or not saying that. You don't want to be saying what's not going on, or you're too afraid to say what's going on because you're afraid of repercussions or anything that may come from that. You should be open and confident in the relationship that your off the field stuff isn't going to be tampered with because you built it up over time, and it's so strong that you're able to have those hard, honest conversations about football, whether it's on the field, in the locker room, during meetings. It's just something that has to happen for a team to grow. So that's why I think it's really important, and I think that's what made those few years at Stanford that we're all together really good because we were so close and tight knit, and we grinded all off season together. We knew each other inside and out, so we were confident in each other too.
Awesome, yeah. So final question we have for you tonight is just the question of favorite memory so far. Playing football. Whether it's in high school, winning a title. Even in college. I mean, what is kind of the moment for you that solidifies kind of your aspiration for the game, but also just overall excited moment for you personally?
I would say in high school it was 2012 We're playing our rival Los Gatos, who beat us the year before, and our defense just came storming out the gate, just blowing up every play, and we just had good team energy, and we were firing on all cylinders. One of those games where almost nothing goes bad. I was throwing touchdowns, and defense was making huge plays, and running backs were running for a bunch of yards, and it was just they were a good team, and we just brought it that day, and it felt good. College-wise, it was fun that 2015 year, even though I wasn't playing as much or wasn't the starter. The Rose Bowl and all that stuff, that was a pretty good year. Christian had a hell of a season. Should have won the Heisman still, along with all those other Stanford guys. And then I guess for me, my starting days, I would say Cal. Cal was a good, better team than they have been in the past when we played them 2016. It was a rainy game, rainy game late in the season, so one of those games was kind of a gritty November football game.
Yeah.
And it was, everyone who has a rival, they'll know, it's no matter how bad they are, how good they are, it's going to be a dogfight. So that's how it was for us then. We ended up getting a solid win after, back and forth battle throughout the game, but that was fun to keep the axe with us. 2017, for me, that was those two times were probably the best for me.
Yeah, awesome. So we just wanted to thank you for coming on the show. Obviously, you're busy with your training thus far. Just keeping in touch with different organizations and everything. So hopefully we look forward to you getting a call hopefully soon. Getting to see your new mechanics and your new kind of style. With losing some weight and dealing with kind of your arm mechanics. So just thanks for coming on.